Hello everyone, welcome to another real-time colored pencil drawing tutorial, and you will know that this is real-time because you will hear everything outside my studio. But today I'm going to show you a little bit different approach or style to colored pencils. First, I'm going to use only 5 pencils right here. This is Polychromos, and I'm going to be using only 5 pieces of this Polychromos colored pencils. So this is going to be a little bit of a challenge also. And this is my reference photo, the newly crowned Miss Universe Philippines 2023. And since I'm going to be using only 5 piece colored pencils, I'm going to be using a different kind of paper right here. This is the Canson Mi Tientes Buff, or this is a little bit of an orangey color right here. And I like using Canson Mi Tientes papers also with colored pencils because normally it is used for pastels, but it has 2 sides. It has the rough side for pastels and the smoother side for colored pencils. So that's what I do. And yeah, this is going to be in real time, and this is going to be a challenge for me because here I'm only going to be using 5 piece colored pencil. I'm gonna start by blocking in my very dark shadows using the black. Only the very dark shadows, like and black very dark parts like the eyes, and she's wearing very dark makeup, so I'm gonna use the black on those parts and in some very dark shadows. I think this style is perfect if you have very limited pencils, or you can just afford a few pieces of colored pencils, because here I am using just 5 pencils. Actually, just three regular colors, and then the black and the white. So all in all, it's 5. So I think it's going to be like a monochromatic drawing style. I like trying different kinds of art style or technique, or this particular style is a bit loose, not really hyper realistic, but very expressive. And since the paper is quite colored already with very nice like orangey color, that I think that will serve a perfect mid-tone for this particular drawing. So as usual, I'm keeping my pencils very sharp, and I use very light pressure because I don't want to flatten the tooth of the paper on this early stage of the drawing. So we are just trying to block in our shadows. So I think this technique is going to be a lot quicker compared to regular drawing using lots of colors, because here what we're trying to achieve is a nice classic monochromatic look or appeal to the drawing. So I'm using a tiny circular motion called stippling, because I don't want to make it very hard to blend everything together, although I'm gonna be using a blender here, which is the Prismacolor colorless blender. But we don't need very heavy blending here, like we don't need to burnish actually, because the tooth of the paper is colored, so we don't need to burnish. We just need to blend the pigments and to just like press it against the tooth of the paper, to because there will still be some orange tooth of the paper to show through, but they're not very difficult to hide. Like here I'm just using the black, but as you can see, you can almost you can't see the tooth of the paper here. So but of course I want to give the credit to the pencil that I'm using, which is top notch. This is the one of the best, if not the best, colored pencils in the market, and it's very smooth to use on paper. You don't need heavy blending or any like burnishing when you use polychromos, because it seems to just self blend. this Canson Mi Tientes paper, which has lots of colors and tones. They have gray tones, they have tan, but they also have white. So if you are looking for a high quality paper that you want to use with your colored pencils, and you cannot afford branded colored pencil papers like the Strathmore or any expensive papers, this one is not very expensive. This is quite cheaper compared to other brands, but this paper performs really well with colored pencils. They have a very nice strong textures or tooth that the colored pencils can easily adhere to, and yeah, they are textured but very smooth in terms of the layering of the colored pencils. You can see here, you can almost see the tooth of the paper, not just because the paper is toned, but because the tooth is really very fine and very strong. I love using Faber Castell Polychromos on highly detailed drawings like this one. Even though I'm gonna be using only 5 colors right here, I don't want to miss on the details, and I want to be able to draw every tiny details on the skin tone. I want to take advantage of the capacity of this Polychromos to create highly detailed drawings. I think you can, with just this black Polychromos, you can create a portrait using just the black Polychromos. You can just use it like a regular charcoal pencil, but a little bit oily. It's pretty much like the Cretacolor, this black Polychromos colored pencils. So you can go as dark as you can or as you want using the black, and you can just draw some very lighter shadow. You just apply less pressure. Right here, you can see here, I'm applying pressure just to be able to draw this very nice lighter shadow right here and right here. So it just depends on the pressure that you use. But you can't use too much pressure because you don't want to flatten the tooth of the paper, because we're going to layer a few pencils after this. Of course, we need to use the black on her nostrils. And looking at my reference photo, I can see that the left side of the nose has a very nice deep shadow. So instead of just using brown, I'm gonna add a little bit of this black Polychromos, just a very light pressure, just to establish the darkness of the shadow on the left side of her nose. So there is a dark shadow here on the side. So the life or the three-dimensionality of any portrait depends on the shadow. So you really need to study how to build your shadows, because the shadows is what will make your drawing look like real, or it looks like it's popping out of the paper. So when you're drawing also, you try to avoid sharp lines. You need to soften the lines to make it more realistic, right? And then using very light pressure, I want to just establish the dark shadow right here on this side of the nose using light pressure and circular motion. And I want to go up here and try to draw this very nice shadow right here. I'm gonna put some browns and light browns on top of this, so it's going to look more natural. But at this point, I'm just using the black to gently have this shadow built. So you need to be a little bit careful when you are on the actual skin tone. You need to be extra careful in using black because it can just ruin the entire drawing if you added too much black. So you can see how light this shadow that I put using the black. Even if I've been using Polychromos for years, I'm still amazed on how fine and how smooth the layers that you put using your Polychromos compared to wax-based colored pencils, where you cannot go as smooth as this. You need to burnish the wax-based colored pencils to be able to become smooth. But here, the Polychromos, even if I'm just layering it on paper directly, it still layers. It's already very very smooth and fine, very very fine. So a little bit of blending is needed, and I think you don't need to burnish uh, as much as you do with wax base like Prismacolor. Can you see how fine the shadow is? I don't think you can achieve this kind of very smooth and refined skin tone with wax based colored pencils. Her lips have very dark details and shadow, and the creases are also a bit dark, so I'm gonna use this black. I'm still using the black here, and as soon as we are done by building the darkest shadows, we are going to go with our next layer. The mouth or the lips is one of the most complicated parts of the face. So I really take my time to establish the lips with all the tiny details. What's great about this Polychromos is that it maintains the sharpness. So less sharpening is needed. I'm comparing it to Prismacolor, which is a bit easier to consume when you layer on the paper. So there's a tendency to always sharpen, but with Polychromos, since this is like a bit dry, because this is an oil-based colored pencils and the pigments are very high quality. But even if it is not creamy or silky like Prismacolors or like any other wax-based colored pencils, they layer this Polychromos layer very very smoothly on paper. So the approach is a bit different compared to Prismacolors or wax-based colored pencils. Faber Castell Polychromos for me, because this is the only high-end oil-based color pencils that I was able to try. So I think this is really the best colored pencils for highly detailed drawings. But I also hear a lot of good things on the Derwent Light Fast, but and I also want to try it and I want to compare it to the Polychromos. Is there anybody here who already tried the Derwent Light Fast? Can you tell me on the comment section about your experience on that colored pencil? Because what I hear is that they are very similar with Polychromos, but let me know about your experience on the Derwent Light Fast because I also want to try it, but that is still I can't seem to just get it because it's very very expensive. It's very very expensive, especially here in the Philippines. Because although this kind of style is very time consuming, the realism and the hyper realism style with portraiture is very time consuming. You really need to enjoy. You really need to love it, to love this, for you to be able to enjoy it and to be able to create these highly detailed drawings like this. And good for me because I really enjoy doing things like this. I enjoy the slow process because I know that I'm gonna get the result that I want, which is hopefully I was getting hyperrealism on my portraits. But I'm not sure if there's any other oil-based colored pencils that is with the same quality as Polychromos and Derwent Lightfast. I don't. I also hear about Caran d'Ache, not Luminance because Luminance is the wax base, but I hear also about the Caran d'Ache Pablo colored pencils. I think that is also oil based, but I'm not 100% sure. Now I'm trying to be a little gentle and extra sharp on this part of the cheek to build this. And this is not as dark as the other shadows that I put the black on right here and here, but I want to establish a little bit of a dark shadow right here, a very gentle dark shadow. So extra sharp and with a little bit less pressure and extra gentle. I don't want this shadow to be too dark. Just to add a very gentle contour here, right here on the face. So my pencil is in a slanting position right here to maintain the sharpness and at the same time to make the layers more fine and a little bit smooth. I think it's amazing to see that we were able to get all the features already by just using one pencil, which is the black Polychromos colored pencils and a toned paper. I think the main star here is the toned paper. This is the Canson Mi Tientes Buff color. This is like a very nice orangey flesh color, and it seems like it becomes the skin tone already. So that's why we were able to build in just a couple of hours all the features of the face, including the darker shadows and the lighter shadows using just the black. So once we establish or we block in all these shadows, we are going to be layering more brown colors. But before that, I'm going to show you the second step to this portrait drawing, which is using the white Polychromos, putting the highlights. So let us put our highlights. I'm going to sharpen my white Polychromos right here to a sharp point. And even if this is only the initial stage of the portrait, I want to be able to just add the highlights as early as now, because when we layer more colors, I just want to be able to identify where my highlights are. So just like the black, I'm just layering the white very, very lightly. Not just a little bit more pressure on the very light highlights, but on light tones, just very gentle touch of this white. And you will see the magic of the white pencil on toned paper right here. It gives three-dimensionality and a little bit more of realism to our drawing, even though this is just the initial stage of the drawing. And we have a little bit of highlight here on this part of the eye. And then there is a very sharp, like a watery highlight right here. And I want to sharpen it first. And a little bit intensely white right here on the tip of the nose. So the technique of drawing using tone paper is called the additive technique, wherein we add the shade, but we add the highlights. We draw the highlights. Unlike when we are using white paper, where that is the erasing technique, where you erase the colored pencil, or you retain the whiteness of the paper for the highlights. But normally we just erase to show the highlights. But here we are the ones who draw or who put our highlights. There are some, like shimmering makeup on this part, so I just wanna put some dots of this white polychromos. So this is just the first and second step on this particular colored pencil drawing tutorial in real time. And watch out for part 2, because we're going to make it a little bit more realistic by adding more brown tones and lighter tones. So see you in part 2. Thank you very much for watching.